God bless you. We're glad that you've joined us again for another podcast, Growing in Grace. We're glad that you're with us. We'd like for you to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Tell your family, your friends, and neighbors and foes, whosoever will, they can come and be a part of this podcast where we're growing in grace. We're helping families. And today we have a special group of guests that are going to share a conversation with us about parenting and child. Well, the real topic is listening to your children, listening, and the results of listening to your children. So there's two components to that. So you've got the parent component and the child component, and so we have the Green family who have since married, and so last names have changed. But these were all Greens at one time. And the one in the center is Sister Donna Green, who is the mother of the two on the outside, Kristen. Last name is Johnson and Kimberly Jeffries. And so these are her daughters, Sister Green's daughters. You are the older of the two. Yes. Not the oldest, but the older of the two. Older. And you are
the middle.
Middle? Okay. Basically, there are twins that are under you. Is that right?
And Keegan.
And Keegan. And what about Kayla?
Well, she a twin.
That's right. Excuse me. That's right. That's part of the twins. The twins and Keegan. Okay. Right. Okay. I got it. Yep. I got it. So you're in the middle, and you're closer to the top.
Yes.
And there's one older than you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And so you're the next oldest.
Well, it's been said in the family that I am the oldest.
And she's
okay.
So
you act like the oldest.
Yes, but it's technically two older than me.
I see.
Yes.
I see. And the one that's your eldest sister is about how many years apart are you?
10.
Yeah. So it was her, and then there was this batch that came along that you came to be the ruler over.
Yes.
I see. And that's how, and then you start trying to rule over the eldest sister too.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Pretty much.
And then there's mom. So you have this family has a special dynamic, where as you're the matriarch, and the father, which we did a conversation about how you did lose your husband Raymond.
Right.
And so then you became a single parent,
Right.
and which has its own dynamics.
Definitely.
So what was it like with these girls? And the conversation is basically listening to your children and the results of listening to your children. How did you come to a position to where you even felt like you may need to listen to them more, or just give us some background about listening to your children?
Well, when they were younger, like you said, I was raising them on my own, and when I had my own dynamics going.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of time, Kim, the special one, she was very demanding, and a lot of time when you have children and you got a lot going on, I had all these children under me. I had a lot going on myself, so a lot of times I wasn't hearing them when they say, because in my mind I knew how I wanted them based on what I saw. So I knew I wanted them in the church, excuse me, and I knew that I wanted them to act like that. So whatever they said, it did not matter. All I wanted them to do is, especially when I came to church, they had to look like the children in the church, and I was hoping that they act like the children in the church while they was at church, you know. So I wasn't hearing them because based on where I came from, I didn't want that for them. So I patterned myself off of the kids that was in the church, that's how I wanted them to be. So it didn't matter so much what they said or how they acted or reacted to anything I said, long as when y'all saw them, they looked like everybody else in the church, you know. So growing up with them, a lot of things I missed that I could have, it could have made a difference in their life had I heard what they were saying. But in my mind, it doesn't matter. You do what I say. And I had that. I don't care. You're going to do this. I don't care. You're going to do that. Y'all agree? Yeah. So I had that in my head that they was going to do what I say, and I was going to stand on that. So I was going to fight them tooth and nail to make sure that they did what I said, because it was just important. It was more important to me for anything that they look and act like the kids in the church in my head, you know, because I didn't come from church. So I knew they was going to be saved. It didn't matter what. They was going to be saved. You know? So that was the thing with them. And then, you know, Kim can tell you, Kristen can tell you how that affected them, you know, because I didn't listen. You know, I didn't listen to what they had to say. And then when Kim ran away, that that was...
Which time? You talking about the time I had to go pick her up? Is that time?
That's the one.
Oh, okay. Because I think that happened more than once, right?
Yeah.
It did.
Okay.
Kim was very, very, you know, bullheaded. She gonna do how she want to do it, and when she ran away that time, it was about, I wanted you to wear something you didn't want to wear. What was that?
I had a skirt that she wanted me to wear, and it wasn't clean. And anybody know wearing skirts to school is already a big thing. So then to go to school and it's not clean or it doesn't look the way you want it to look, it's just like, I'm not doing this. And I felt like she wasn't listening to me. So I said, okay, I'm old enough now. I'm out, pretty much.
I didn't see no spots in that skirt.
It was dirty to me. And it was probably majorly because it didn't look the way I wanted it to look. But she didn't care.
And it wasn't that I didn't care. But the thing was that I didn't trust her enough to deal with what she had going on, because I still had my own stuff coming from my background going on. So to me, at that time, it was me against them. You know, in the household, it was just me against them. So, you know, and even Kristen can tell you, you know, with you growing up, I was pretty much the same way. I just, you know, I think you got a little more grace though, because you was by yourself and I could hear you a little bit more than when they came. But I still, you know, it just, I think when you're coming from a mental background, when you're coming from your own trauma and pain, and the way I was raised, so my whole thing was I'm better than my mom. Even if I'm at least better than she, because she didn't do this and I did that, so I'm better than her. So with them, it's like, you're gonna do what I say because I'm clear, I'm focused, I'm right here with y'all, and that's all I felt like I had to do. I didn't see where it was necessary to listen to them. I didn't think that was important. So by me not thinking that was important, I just raised some angry little birds at one time.
Well, here's something to think about that, and then we'll, you know, hear from Sister Kristen, because we want to model listening to children. So we want to hear them out on some things. So here's the thing. Sometimes you may think somebody may get the wrong impression about listening to your children. Like, listening means obeying your children. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is sometimes you need to hear them out so at least you know where they're coming from. And when you know where they're coming from, you can know how to reach them and address them and connect with them. Do you agree with that?
Yes, because a lot of times we think because they're young, what they have to say is not important.
Yes.
And it is important. And we think that because, you know, I could only imagine had I listened to them, it just really, it took it from the standpoint that I wasn't listened to, and I know how I felt not being listened to. Children are important. How they feel is important, you know. And we as parents, we have to understand that even though we know that we're their head, we're leading them, but these are God's children, and just like we want our Father to listen to us and understand us, we have to be that way with our children. It doesn't matter how old they are. If it matters to them, it should matter. At least let us reason together, or let me sit down and hear you. You know, I may not still go the way you want to go, but I need you to know that I hear you. You know, and it took a while for me to get to that point where I began to listen to them.
Yeah, and have empathy, and be able to show that you care, because that means that's gonna go a long way, and so listening to be able to make a connection with the children. What do you think of all of this? And especially so now, okay, this is your mom, but then you're also a mom too.
Yes.
So you know you're a mom too as well, Kim. So now it's a little now you're in that role.
Yes.
And so what do you have to say?
What I will say before I talk about that, even though Mom was, I don't want to say harsh, she was hard. If you let her cool off, you could always go back and have a conversation with her. She may or may not agree, or may not hear you. Even when we were younger, you could always go back and have a conversation. But in the heat of the moment, never. Never in the heat of the moment. But if you went back after everything settled, maybe the next day, you could have a conversation with her. And she would say, if she hurt your feelings or something, she would say, I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings, but this is what I'm trying to get you to see. So it was few and far between younger. The older we got, I think the more she understood that she had some stubborn children. And the best thing to do was to listen. And now that we're older, she's much better at listening and understanding where we coming from, or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe she's able to empathize, and see that it's no disrespect. We're not trying to disrespect. We're not trying to do any of that. We just want you to hear where we're coming from, and she's able to do that now. But with my daughter, I think my mom would say I listen too much.
So you've overcorrected. You've overcorrected.
I really do consider her.
Yeah.
I consider her. And not that I agree, or not that you're going to get to do what you want to do, but I consider her. I consider her feelings. I consider what she thinks. I consider those things because I know what it's like not to be heard.
Yes.
And so I want her to understand that her feelings are valid, even though life may not go your way, but your feelings are valid, and I want you to be heard. So in some things, my mom like, you just make her do it. And I'm like, well, let me hear her out first. And then she probably still going to have to do it, but at least I heard her.
Yeah.
You know. So I think it's just when you learn better, you do better. And I learned better, so I did better. But I think now, even with my mom, we are able to have good conversation. We're able to tell her some things, and she correct us.
It has gotten to the point now where they're constantly saying, "Oh, Mama, you shouldn't have said it. You need to go apologize." Or, I get that almost a daily. You know, it's almost like. But they help me see myself in a sense because I am a direct person. I'm a very direct person, and we're gonna have we gonna have a conversation. We gonna have the conversation, you know. And now I hear them. They're like, you know, you need to go apologize. You shouldn't have said that like that. Go apologize, you know. But see, I always carry my apologies with me. They always ready. You know, so I don't have a problem. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that, or you know, whatever. I shouldn't have said it like that and everything. But you know, but they taught me. See, I had kids when I started having children when I was, you know, 15, and then I had one when I was 16. So really, I didn't have that time to grow up. I grew up with my kids, and even when I had them in their 30s, I wasn't that age. You understand? So I kind of grew up with them. So while I was teaching them, they were teaching me. You know, some things I had to come to grips with. You know, and I was talking to Kim last night. You know, and she was like, you know, she was saying, I just wanted to make sure that you know I didn't appreciate that. So I was going to be defiant of whatever you said, you know. And I didn't look at it as defiant. I looked at it as they were teenagers and I knew they was going to go through some stuff. So I kind of calmed down to the point where when they did things, I was not boom, boom, boom. I was like, okay, so how is this working for you? You know, because at the end of the day, I'm mama. I can only do so much, but you got to feel that. You know what I'm saying? And I realized that because I didn't have a lot of that stuff. So my inner child, that person that was in me that didn't get that nurturing, that didn't get any of that, it was all there raising them. You know, that energy, it was because I never had that. So raising them, I was a parent sometime, and sometime I was a child just like they was. You know what I'm saying? And those times I know just to go and be quiet, because had I talked or said anything, they would see my struggles with my mental. They would see the struggle, so I would just have to let them get away with that one. You know, and mentally I knew.
But you had enough understanding to know that whatever you was about to say wasn't gonna be good.
No.
So you.
I just knew I was gonna get them. I just wasn't gonna get them right then. I was gonna come back with my stuff. You ain't got away with it, but right now it's not.
That's not the right
I
time.
think I understood that.
Yeah.
I would tell Kim now, it's not about y'all.
Yeah.
Growing up, I would just say, it's not about y'all. That's whatever mama got going on.
Yeah.
So y'all just leave her alone for right now. Because she go in her room and close her door. That means whatever she wanted to do to you, or whatever she wanted to say, she understood that she could not say.
Yeah.
Or she
couldn't do. Right.
Because she was too angry. So she would go in her room and close her door. And I would tell them, it's not about y'all. It's not about what y'all did all together. It's just that she don't have the tools all together to do it in the right manner.
Right now.
Right now. She was eventually
She gonna get you. She gonna get you.
but not right now. But I think all of those things helped us. To be able to communicate with others, to be able to understand people and where they are, and not judge. Not judge people and where they are, and that just came from Mama, because you know, she explained when we got older about just people in their mental space, and what it looks like may not be what it is. And so, and the reason why she explained to us the reason why she didn't listen, and the reason why she did some of the things that she did, and it made sense, you know. And so it kind of helped us to be able to come to her now
y'all have a better connection now.
Yes.
And part of that, it sounds like, was because you were able to have some of the conversations that you probably didn't have early on, but you did go ahead and have them later, and it helped your relationship. Otherwise, y'all may not have the relationship you have even today.
Right.
Yeah. They bought my. When I started having kids, I was numb. I had no emotions, no feelings. I didn't cry. People used to always ask me why I wouldn't cry or whatever. But life had beat me to that point.
I mean, I thought crying was a bad thing for the longest. Even as an adult in my 20s, I did not to crying.
I didn't cry.
But you didn't cry either?
I thought it was a sign of weakness.
Because Mom didn't do that.
Well, first of all, I knew that you was just as strong as your head. I knew that. And I knew the things that we was going through, if I showed the emotions of that, if they seen where I was with really what we was going through, that was going to make them react the same way. And I was trying to show them, because sometimes kids don't hear what you say. They look at what you doing, and that's what they mimic. So for me, when we was without the lights, without the gas, without the food, without this, without that, I was always laughing and talking to them and letting them know, hey, this is going on.
Yeah.
But I never showed them how I was affected by this, what was going on, because at the end of the day, you just got to handle your business. So if this is this, we gonna do this, you know, and then we gonna keep it moving, you know. So we ain't gonna. So I had to show them that, to let them know, you know, because I could have been in there breaking down. My breakdown was never with them. It was only with God. It wasn't for them. He held me up. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't want to show, but it wasn't that but I had been so numb and beat down by life in a way that I stopped crying years ago. You know, years ago I had stopped crying. And I was, so for me, and they thought I was hard. You know, they thought I was hard, and they just, you know, wasn't nothing penetrating. It wasn't that. It's just in my mental, I had to be focused enough to raise these kids and keep a roof over their head. That's all I was thinking about. Raising them, keep a roof over their head, keep them off drugs, keep them off this, keep them off that, get them out of school and all that. That was my focus. So everything else at that point didn't matter. The emotions and all that stuff didn't matter, because I didn't know how to do what I was doing anyway.
I
You know
see.
what I'm saying? I didn't have nothing to look at to say, hey, this is how you raise children. This is how you, because my household wasn't that type of household. So if I had did it the way my mom did it, then it would have been different. But she did. They said something about my mom.
Listen.
Yeah, say something about my mom.
No.
Saying we be in some trouble right
Okay.
So, you know, but then when you got kids that's stubborn, like they were stubborn, and and I'm gonna tell you this, when you don't have patience with your kids, and I didn't have that, when you don't have time for your kids and all that, then you'll see. What's my motto?
You see
Keep
what
on
you
living.
raised after a
You'll see
while.
what you raised after a while. You will get your grade after a while. You know. Now I'm older. They don't really have a lot of patience with me. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, let's see let's get Kim's side of the story. What's your side of the story, Kim?
I mean, honestly, my mom listening to us, of course, started like once we became older, but it didn't happen like right away. Like once I turned 18, okay, me and my mom have a good relationship. I honestly don't think it really started until I got married or was about to get married. I felt like I could go and talk to her about things because I started to see her as a woman and not as just my mom. And so I think when you look at your parents, especially as an adult, when you look at your parents as people who have their own things going on, who, you know, had past traumas and all of those things, you start to realize, okay, she's a person just like I'm a person. So she had things she was dealing with while raising us. So I can't hold her to that. The things that she did not do that I wanted her to do, or that I saw you or other people do with their children, I can't hold her to that because she didn't get that. She only did, like she said, she did better than her mom. So I've heard about what, you know, her mom and her mom before her, you know, what they were like. So I'm just like, okay, she did better than them. She did the best that she could with what she had. And honestly, she did a great job with the tools that she had. She did a very good job keeping us in church and different things like that. So it kind of made me realize she's a cool woman. Like, like her story.
Look
for
at her
her to
shaking
be,
her head. Yeah, I'm cool. Yeah.
for her to be where she is today, she has accomplished a lot, especially in regards to how she was raised, our family, and different things like that. So, and she made me feel very comfortable, like in talking to her when I was like, okay, I didn't appreciate that, or I didn't like this, or this is why I did this. Like I told her last night, one of the reasons why it was so hard on her, or I was so hard on her, was because I didn't appreciate the move. Us moving to Tennessee, I felt like was a major setback for my childhood. So my goal was to make it as hard as it was for her, so that she would be like, okay, I'm done, and she would send me back to Atlanta. She never did that. She never did that. But Amy coming to her and saying that, she just told me, she did the best that she could. And she explained to me the process. And when she explained it to me, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I as a parent, I understand you having to do what's best for you and what's best for your children. I had to do what was best for mine. So I get the sacrifices. So it just cost us to have a better relationship. I think the transparency of her and saying, this is where I was at, and not making excuses or disregarding how I felt. That was so long ago. Why are you bringing that up? That's how I felt.
Yeah, and I will say this, that sometimes parents treat even their adult children like kids, and won't. Not only did they would they not listen to their child when you probably can hear them out, even when they're not making a lot of sense. Just listen to them.
Right.
I even share this, and then I get back to my point. But like, I'm pastor, of Lucas Temple, and even now I listen to the children. I listen to them. Like when they're trying to talk to me, I'm trying to hear what they're saying.
Right.
And I want to try to understand them, where they're coming from, who are they, and because I see them as little people who are going to grow up and be members of the church, and I want to make a connection with them. A few Sundays ago, I sat down. We had a dinner here, and I was looking for where I was going to sit, and there was these little kids there. I just sat down with them. They started talking to me, and I just listened to them. Just listen. The following Sunday, one of the little ones came to me. She said, "Did you see me in church today?" Like she's my friend, and she is my friend. I want her to be my friend. But if you listen and make a connection with young people, it makes all the difference in the world. It can make all the difference in the world.
It can make the difference.
But now, here's the thing. Sometimes people think that you don't supposed to listen to children.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they won't listen to even adult children, and they still treat like their own children. They'll treat their adult children like their little kids.
Yeah, I think with adult children, I know with them, I feel like they can come to me and tell me they have told me a lot of stuff that I did wrong, and some of it was hard to hear.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
some of it was hard to hear. I didn't try to make excuses for it. I didn't try, any of that. I just heard them, and at the end of the day, that was their experience with me, because even though that wasn't what happened, wasn't what what they say they felt and what they say I did, wasn't the way I was going, or what but then I have to understand that was their experience with me. You know what I'm saying?
That was their perspective.
Yeah, so I had to accept that. I had to accept that because that's the way they saw it, and so I didn't try to, that was, this, that, and the other, this, that, and the other. If I could explain where I was, but I'm not, at the same time, not make excuse for what I did or how they felt about what I did. Because some of the things I did, it was totally wrong. If they had came to me at that time, I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? I didn't care about how they was feeling then.
But I think that's what makes the relationship good now. I think with just my mom's children, her phone don't stop ringing. I'm sure of that.
Multiple times a day.
Multiple
I
times
think I
a
speak
day.
to my mom like 4 or 5 times a day.
I think that's what makes our relationship good now, because she's able to listen and not make excuses. Even if we come to her for something that we felt that she did or said. She had a conversation with Kim, and in the conversation with Kim, after it was over, I told her, I said, "Mom, how you said that? That wasn't, you should probably apologize to Kim." And she did. She called Kim and apologized. And just small things like that makes you feel comfortable in coming to her and talking to her about anything. Not just about, small things, but big things too. And you know that she'll listen and take and try to understand what you're saying. And that's important in your adulthood, because the road that we're going down, she's been. And she can give you the wisdom that you need. But if we don't trust her, if if we didn't trust her, then we wouldn't do that, and we'll probably fall into some holes that we could avoid.
Right.
From not listening, and because we trust her to understand and listen to us, it's easy to do that. So I call her multiple times a day for multiple things.
So now, not only the listening is going both ways. It's going both ways. So now you're listening to her.
Yes.
Whereas she wasn't listening to y'all when y'all was kids, and y'all wasn't listening to
I was not listening.
So wasn't no listening going on. There was a lot of talking, but no listening, huh?
Right.
And here's the thing about communication. Communication actually entails sending and receiving.
Yes.
Sending and receiving. Some people think, well, because I told you, I communicated with you. But if the person didn't hear you, you didn't communicate.
Right.
You didn't communicate because there was nobody who received.
Right.
And there's another part that we have to consider in our walk and in our lives, in our relationships, is the Bible says, be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. So actually the way the scripture reads, I think James 1:21 or so, it reads like James, am I right, 1:19, somewhere along in there. It's like we should actually listen more than we talk. We should actually listen more than we talk.
And I totally agree. That's what I be trying to tell, because I don't feel like I'm being heard now.
You still don't feel like you've been heard.
No, I feel like now that they're grown, I feel like now that they think I'm playing. I feel like now that I'm grown, but they don't hear me. I be trying to tell them things that they don't hear me because they have set in their mind how it should go now. And a lot of times it don't go that way. And I'm like, okay, they don't hear me. And some things I could now, a lot of times, the decision. But what I do realize is this: what I say is right. That's not the only right. It may be right for me. It may not be right for them. They could do it another way, and it'll still work. But I'm saying that if you just go on and listen to me, you ain't even got to think of another way. Just do it that way.
Just do what I say.
It's gonna work. I promise you.
I think too, parents with adult children. I think they want you to do it their way, and it's not that we're not listening. I tell my mom all the time, it's not that I didn't hear you. I heard you.
Yeah.
I heard exactly what you said. But what works for you don't work for me.
Right.
And I would tell parents, don't stop having those conversations with your children.
Right.
And even with, when I wasn't coming to church like I should, and she would say, you need to go to church, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. I was listening. I wasn't doing it at that exact moment, but I was listening.
Yeah.
So
she was planting the seed in you.
Right. And just keep planting the seed. Don't nag. Don't nag.
Definitely a difference.
But plant the seed, and that's okay because even though they're not doing it, they're listening. They hear you, and so sometimes Mama wants you to do it her way.
Yeah.
But then I think a lot of times, like I remember when I was getting on Keegan about something, because what they do is a reflection of me. I felt like. And Keegan told me something that I always stuck with me. He said, you think when we go out and do what we do, it's about you. We ain't even thinking about you, Mama. We just doing what we want to do. Yeah. It ain't about you, Mama. But in my head, it doesn't matter because y'all are my children. So whatever y'all do, it's going to be a reflection of me. But I remember that. And now I have to realize sometimes, because when I tell them stuff and they don't do it, even now it gets a little frustrating, because it's so easy just to do what I say and it's gonna work. You know what I'm saying? But then when they don't do it and you see where they're heading and ain't nothing you can do about it because they doing what they want to do. So then I have to shift and say, okay, they gotta learn their lessons like you learned your lessons. You gotta let them be what they gonna be and get it their way, because you had to get it your way.
But then, like you told me, parent has multiple hats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you become the counselor when they bump their head.
Yeah. Well,
Definitely my counselor several times.
yeah, and so really it comes to a position to where at a certain point you actually have to change over from being just mom to being like a life coach.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had to make a transition myself with my adult children. They got married, and now they're starting to have their own children. And I have to understand and switch to being an advisor rather than an authoritative figure in their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? And so we want to keep the lines of communication open so that we can continue to plant seeds and have some influence. But we can't, it's to a point now to where you're not the authority.
Right.
Well, and
You're not the authority.
I totally get it. So sometimes, you know, when I hear things they doing, I be just saying, "You dumb," you know.
Oh,
Or
my
I do. I be like, "Oh God, I just wish they don't tell me their business all the time," or I wish that I don't hear it because I'm immediately finna call, and sometimes I'm not calling to say, "Hey Kim, blah blah blah." I'm finna attack. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes I may say, "Hey, what's up? You did blah blah blah." But if that answer don't come right, I'm finna attack. Well, okay, that's not helping her because see now she's gonna show me this is how I'm gonna do it, and then I still gotta take step back and allow that to happen because even if I don't allow it, Kim gonna do what Kim wanna do, Chris gonna and the kids gonna do what they wanna do, you know. But as a parent, you be like, okay, that was dumb, you know. And I'm not that parent like maybe you. That's that's not me. You know, I use colorful words.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
Well, let's see what Kim got to say about that.
I mean, she does that.
Yeah.
She doesn't do it as often as she used to because we've had some conversations about that. Generally now she'll use Kristen as a buffer. She had some stuff she wanted to talk to me about, and so she took me to lunch. It was supposed to be lunch, but she took me to lunch and she used Kristen as a buffer. So that way she's listening to me and I'm listening to her. Because sometimes if she go there, then I'm like, okay, well I'm done with the conversation because it's not productive. But lately it's been she'll either use Kristen as a buffer or she'll come correctly in a sense of, okay, this is what I see. Let me know if this is this what I'm seeing, and then yes, but that I got it, and she don't like that. She don't like you to just say I got it. It's under control. She wants you to go ahead and figure out the situation right then
And
there.
tell you why. Because first of all, if I come to her correct, that's a lot of work for me. I'm just gonna say, that's a lot of work.
So you already done put a lot of energy in it just to come correct.
Right.
And you want to see the fruit of your labor.
And I want to see it, you know. And then when she like, okay, I get it. And so I already know that the conversation is pretty much over with. Now I could push it if I want to. It just depends on how much energy I want to put in it. You know, but being a parent of adult children, when you done raise them up more years than you know, it's sometimes it's hard just to sit back and let, even if they're not doing what you call wrong, but you just see what they can do better. You know what I'm saying? So what I had to do was get out of their life. Create my own life, go my way, and let them be where they at. You know, to now they checking for me. Where you at? But see, I got my own stuff going on because sometimes if I stop and I really take a look, I'm probably finna go off. You know what I'm saying? Seriously, because there's always something there that I just don't like. You know, but I know that that's me getting mental strength. You got to be quiet. That's not your business. That's their business. You got to let her business be her business. You got to let her business be her business. And then so I sit there, you know, well that's exercise. Honestly, I'm not playing. That is just exercise for me. Because there were times with them when I got to say what I want to say when I want to say it, and wasn't nothing you can do. And now I have to respect them as adults.
Yes.
I'm okay with the respect, but to be quiet when I can really say some things.
And you can fix everything, right? And you can just fix it everything. All you got to do is just listen. Listen to me. But I will say that all the time, listening is not obeying. Like, I had somebody recently say that to me about like listening. Yeah, but you don't listen. Yeah, I said, okay. But the reality is, I do listen. But after I listen and consider, I might not do what you asked me to do.
Right.
So just like a child, a parent listening to a child, a child may say to a parent, says, "Mama, I want to drive. I want to drive home." He 8 years old. You listen. You heard what he said. Then you consider and said, "Okay, I heard you, son." I tell you what we're gonna do. I tell you what we can do.
Yeah.
What we can do is we can go to bumper cars and then we'll let you drive.
Right.
I want to drive your car. Now, you're not going to let the 8-year-old drive your car
Right.
on 285 or 20 or 85 or 75 or any of the other roads. You're not going to let your 8-year-old drive.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
But you listen to them, you heard them and say, okay, this is what we can do.
Right.
And then when you get old enough, then that's what you'll get licensed, we'll do this. But for your age, we have to drive a certain type of cars. You can speak like that. But you're not going to do what the child said
Right.
because it's not the right thing to do.
You gotta read. You have to. I think with our children these days, though, whooping was back in the day. Where these days, you do punish you. You do spank your children when they need to be spanked. But if you can get it in their heart, if you can just sit down and just try to get it in their heart, it will make a change. Because you can whoop them, and they're gonna go sit down somewhere and not do that. Right now. I'm in my experience. But if you can find a way to reason with them or find a way to understand where they are or where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time, because children have different spirits just like adults have different spirits, and that's just real. But sometimes you can make a difference in a child's life just by listening and finding a way, and it helps you too. It really helps you grow when you find those ways to reason with them and stuff, because they want to be heard too, and they feel better when they feel like they're heard. It brings them down, because I'm adult. I feel better sometimes when I feel like I'm heard. We all do.
Yeah.
We want to be heard.
Right.
Right. So with our children, we have to do the same thing. Sometimes you just gotta listen.
And I will say this: it relates, and it's actually one of those things that just kind of really is universal. Whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do you even so to them. How would you want to be treated?
From the childhood, I've been teaching them that.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you want to be treated? How would you want to be treated? Now, here's the other thing. The Bible did say this. It says, train up a child in the way he should go.
Exactly.
Now, train up a child in the way he should go. Does that mean whip him up, beat him up, snap him up? Well, some of that is like what you said, is basically where you are actually making the inroads into their mind and into their heart. And so some of that is how you're communicating, and sometimes you've got to hear where they're coming from so you can know how to reach them and how to get into their mind and into their heart in their reasoning. So, okay, Kim, talk to me. Why did you do that? Then let's let you talk without trying to fix you and correct you. I just need to hear what you got to say. Then when you give me all your reasoning, then I can begin to say, okay, all right, well, I understand this and I understand this, but this is how you handle this and this is how you handle that. You agree?
I agree. Honestly, I think that if you build that relationship when they're children and like not when they're adults only, but when they're children, it'll make your relationship with them better, as well as I think sometimes the road as children, like the road that we take won't be as hard, because I have somebody that I can go to that's not my peers that will listen to me and will understand me, and I can go to them and I don't feel judged or I don't feel judgment. and I can tell you how I feel, tell you what I'm going through, and even if you don't agree, I know you heard me. And I think that, at least for me, I think that would have made a world of difference in my childhood as far as being heard, being listened to, and actually just having that relationship. Like if we had the relationship we have now when I was a kid, yeah, a lot of things I went through, I probably wouldn't have went through because I had somebody else to go to that was not my age that would give me common sense. I'm like, no, maybe you shouldn't do that. Or I heard you say you're thinking about doing this, but tell me why you're thinking about doing that. What motivates you to want to do that? Or why do you choose these group of friends? Like it would make a difference. So for me, like what me and my husband have talked about is how we want to create that relationship and that bond with our children, so that they can come and speak to us freely, and not in a disrespectful way, but just have a time where, Mom, I need to talk to you about something, and it may not be something I want to hear. It may be something I'm just like, Lord, I can't take no more. But to be able to sit and listen would make a difference to them, and would help them throughout the process of becoming an adult.
Right. And I'll say, as somebody who works in the schools, please listen to your children. It's so much going on. And at such a young age now, things that we would do in high school, they do in elementary. And how the adults are training their children. We need to be listening to our children and asking questions to our children to see what's going on, to try to get some answers, because it's a lot of things going on in the schools that I don't think parents have a clue about. And so if we can listen to our children and, like I said, ask questions, I think we will be much better off.
Well, I'll even ask this question because I can sense that there may be some parents say, well, you're not telling me I should listen to my kids or listen to my children. They're not going to be telling me. They're not going to rule me. Let me ask you a question. I ask this question in general. Would you want to go to a doctor who's supposed to treat you and they don't listen to you?
No.
How would a doctor know how to treat you
Right.
without listening to you first?
Yeah.
Right.
See, a doctor that will start trying to treat you without listening to you, you'll have a headache or a heart condition and they'll be working on your foot. So the way to know how to treat a patient is the doctor has all the medical understanding, right? And the patient may have none. But if you don't listen to the patient, then you won't know how to use your understanding on the patient.
Right.
So you as a parent, yes, you have all this experience and all this knowledge and all this understanding, and you're just pouring it out, but you're addressing the wrong issue. And the reason why you're addressing the wrong issue because you don't even know the issue.
Right.
And the reason why you don't know the issue, you haven't asked.
Right.
You haven't found out. And sometimes you may not be able to ask it directly.
Right.
You just need to let the person talk to you.
That's right.
And when they talk to you, you'll discover what the issue is.
Right.
And a lot of times, parents say, my children know they can come to me about anything, but can they really come to you? That's the question. Can they really come to you? Not based on what you say, but have you put the atmosphere out there that they really feel like they can come to you? And more times than not, it's a no.
Right.
They don't feel like they can come to you, which will leave the door open. You can talk to me about anything, but can I really talk to you about anything? That's the thing.
You raise a good point.
That comes from trust. That's why I said we trust her. That comes from trust, knowing that you're not going to tell my aunties, my uncles, you're going to keep this between us. And I can trust you that you are listening to understand and not just listening to scold me. And I'll say this, somebody's listening. Even if you as the parent who is not listening, somebody's listening.
Somebody's listening and somebody's talking.
Right.
And somebody's advising.
Right.
And you want to be that person.
Exactly.
And what could you add to that will help. Like you, that's a good point to help bring that environment.
Right.
What would you add to making the environment such that you would feel open and ready to talk as a child to a parent, and how can parents do better with creating that environment?
I think your reaction to the small things make me, see whether or not I can come to you about big things. Or if I have older siblings and I see how you react with them, and it's like, oh no, it was something small. I know I can't come to you about something that's big or major in my life because I see how you reacted with the small things. So, just in general, watching how you react to things, even if it catches you off guard or it's just like totally against what we believe, being able to react in a calm manner. Like we've had conversations, and your reaction made me feel like it was safe to come and talk to you because it was calm. I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was judged in the moments of talking to you. So just in general, as parents or even people who are possibly like just talking to younger children, just making them feel like in the small things it matters, and the reaction behind it is not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did X, Y, and Z. Even controlling your facial expressions, which I know is a major thing, especially for my mom sometimes. Like, she get that look on her face like, interesting. I think the facial expressions matter. So that would be my big thing.
I think that even with that, a lot of times children, the parents say, because I hear it, my kids know I love them. My kid, they know you love them, but you feel like because you provided for them, put a roof over their head, and gave them some of the things that they wanted, that's love. That's your love language. It may not be theirs.
Yeah.
They may need more nurturing. They may need more this. You gotta know your kid. You gotta know your child. Even with my adult children, I can't do Kristen like I would do Kim. You know what I'm saying? I because that's two different. And even growing up, I realized because I didn't treat all y'all the same. I wasn't able to do that because there were different spirits. But a lot of times we feel like if we just take care of them, we put a roof over their head, we give them this, we give them that, blah 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 blah. They know we love them. They know we can come because they know they can come to us. But they don't know that. They don't know that. My mom, I never came to my mom. My mom, and I tell this story often, and then I know it's minute and trivial in a sense, but my mom, when I was at somebody's house and the lady next door got shot and killed, and I was with my aunt. That was traumatizing for me. Very traumatizing. Helicopters everywhere, blah blah blah. It was a whole thing. But when I got home and the next day I heard sirens, that was a trigger. I sat and balled up in a knot in the chair crying. Those sirens scared me because that happened last night. Well, I was with my aunt when I came home. So my brother went out and told my mama Donna Maria, and they're crying. And my mama said, I'm not studying Donna Maria. Just like that. I think I was about 7 years old.
You heard her say that?
I heard her say that. By the time she got out in the house, my tears was dry. I was up and acting normal. But from that day to the day my mama died, I never cried to her again. Never. Because what I heard was she didn't matter. Her tears didn't matter. So I never put myself in a position. The only time she saw tears come from my eyes is when she whooped me. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, she didn't see tears. So what I'm saying is, it matters what you say with kids over here. It matters what you say to these children, because what she said, she didn't even mean it like that.
But the way you took it.
The way I took it was, I don't matter. My tears didn't matter. So I made sure that I never cried to my mom to the day she laid it in the ground. We laid her in the ground. I did not cry to my mom. I never went to her with tears. Not when my husband died, not when my son was missing, nothing. I did not do that because that's what I heard. Now, that was real minute. I'm not studying her, but those 4 words changed my life because it said I didn't matter. And what I did was start treating myself like I didn't matter. And then I started bringing people in my life that treated me like I didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Those words are very, very powerful. And life and death is in the power of the tongue. Then that is so true. You know what I'm saying? That is so true. So we have to, as parents, we have to watch what we say. Even conversations we have when kids aren't around. You just got to watch what you say because you don't know what they're hearing. I don't even know whether my mama knew I heard that or not.
She may not have.
Yeah.
And she might, and she probably didn't intend it like, and she might have had her own things going on, like you had your own things going on when you was raising yours. And so, but really this conversation is about awareness. And so that we as, whatever position you find yourself in, have a mindset. Like if you're a child and you're listening to this, think about ways where you can make a connection with your parents. And then if you are a parent and you have children, find out ways where you can make a connection with them and listen to them. Listen to them. Let them gibber at you and talk. And, when they was babies, we was trying to get everything out of them. And, and even as they start where you can understand them a little better, let them talk to you. Let them speak freely to you. Now, I will say that as a disclaimer, and I think it's been said already, disrespect, we're not talking about that. And we're not talking about that. Now, that should not be allowed. It shouldn't be tolerated. But you've got to mind how you deal with your child so that you don't cut off communication. You don't want to cut off communication. You want to keep communication flowing because, like you said, they're going to communicate with somebody. If they can't do it with you, they're going to be doing it somewhere. And evil communication corrupts good manners. So if they're not talking with you, they may be talking to somebody that's having an evil conversation rather than having the good one that they should be having with you. That's right. So listening, creating. Yes. So create the environment for listening in your parent-child relationship. And if you didn't do it early, one of the things I've gotten from this podcast is if you didn't do it early, do it now while you're alive. If you're 90-something and you're still alive and your kids, you might not have did it then, but there's more hope for a live dog than a dead lion. And the moral of that is simply this: the living have hope. The dead, no hope for the dead. The living have hope. And so you can do something while you're alive. So you might have some regrets, but what you can do, you can't go back. You can't fix the past, but you can do better today and tomorrow. Closing remarks. What? Speechless? Oh my goodness. Who would have thought it? You do.
No, I always got something to say.
I mean, I will say I just appreciate my mom for who she is now. And the relationship that we have now and how it has really helped my adult life. My marriage, me becoming a parent. It's just really helped me. So that I do appreciate, and her not giving up on giving advice. Because a lot of times, I'm like, okay, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. Okay, I really don't want to hear that. And she could be like, okay, well, she's not listening, so I'm not going to tell her. I'm not going to say nothing else to Kim. But she doesn't do that. She always, and I do me always, got some advice. But sometimes it's annoying, but I do appreciate it because, even though I may not want to hear it at that particular time, it's like she said, I'm listening. I heard you. It's there. And at some point in time, I may pick it up or I might find my own way to do it. And who knows? I know I like to find my own way to do stuff. So, but I do appreciate her for that. So,
yes, wonderful.
My closing remarks is just pray for
me. Of course, we will and we should. I would say to you too that you've done some courageous things in raising your children alone. and to see the result of your children now, it's amazing. And one more thing I would say that, the Bible says give thanks in all things. It didn't say some things, it said all. And I think that means everything, right? And so sometimes there are some things that happen and have happened, but those things that were not good, not pleasant, that were bitter, they actually worked something to the good. They work something to the good. And even as you talk now, it has worked something to your good. In fact, even for you to even talk about even some of the history from where you came from, even that rough part, it was working something for your good to strive for something better. And every generation ought to get a little better. Get a little better. So even some of the rough patches, it has come to this day. So now your children are saying, thank God for mom. And then they blowing your phone up from time to time. And you thinking they ain't listening, but seeds are still being planted. And one more thing. Where do you think they got the stubbornness from?
Thank you.
Where do you think they got it from? Did it come off of your tree? And you're still stubborn. I appreciate you. Closing remarks.
Like Kim said, I just thank God for my mom and who she is and who she made us to be. Confident and thoughtful and not afraid to step in a room and be who we are. So the people that she made us to be, I really appreciate that.
Well, thank God for this conversation. And of course, we'll probably have more conversations and enjoy this time. And we certainly want to think about, as we are raising our children or as we have adult children, how to respect and love one another, listen to each other. May not agree all the time, but listening is very important. And the Bible says, be swift to hear, slow to speak, and slow to wrath. Come back to the next podcast. May God bless you until then. Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about this podcast, Growing in Grace. May God bless you.